Hello, I'm Andrew Schmertz. Parts of France are on the highest terrorist alert level as the nationwide manhunt continues for two brothers believed to be behind the massacre at a Paris satirical magazine. They may have been spotted at a gas station in the northern Picardy region of France. Meantime, there may have also been a second terrorist attack Thursday morning. A female police officer was shot and killed in southern Paris, but police have not yet connected that attack at the magazine. And in what may be a revenge attack, an explosion rocked a kebab shop next to a mosque in eastern France. No one was hurt. In response, the French military has stepped up security measures across the capital.
Pour le dispositif sur le terrain, les mesures visibles ont été une densification des patrouilles, un doublement sur certains sites des patrouilles et une présence beaucoup plus importante par des effectifs plus importants de militaires sur les sites qui sont protégés.
So as Europe opened itself up to terrorist attacks because of certain policies, especially since the creation of the European Union, and at the same time as Europe's seen a rise in right-wing racist groups because of EU policies. Lawrence Korb is with the Center for American Progress and joins us now from Washington. Good afternoon, Larry.
Good afternoon.
So the attack on this magazine had a history of making fun of Muhammad and satirical cartoons. Do we have information of how coordinated this attack was and how large this conspiracy may have been?
Well, we don't have any information. We know that it was reasonably well coordinated because obviously they had very good weapons. They had AK-47s. They knew when the staff was meeting. And so had they not had a car crash, we probably wouldn't even know what their identity is. But I don't think it's part of a larger conspiracy. I think we have had, these terrorist attacks for years from people who have different agendas. They obviously are upset that France is working with the rest of the international community against ISIS. And I think they hope to provoke an attack by maybe the French right or other people in France against Muslims, which would feed into the narrative of ISIS and al-Qaeda. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to have occurred.
How unique of a problem does France have? 9% of its population is Muslim, but in France, unlike, for example, in the United States, we've been hearing that it's a very segregated community, either by somewhat of a policy of France or the way the community has taken shape. And how much does that give rise to extremists?
Well, I think that allows people to talk to each other and sort of feed into the incorrect narrative about the attitude of, if you will, Christian Europe or Christian West against the Muslims. It's much better in the United States where, they are integrated because we all came from someplace else here in the United States. But I do think this is really a result of what's happening in the Middle East right now, because we may find that these young men were over there in the Middle East fighting. We know that one of them at one time wanted to go over there and fight. We know that a lot of people from Europe and from the United States are going over there to join the conflict, and we are worried when they come back some of the things that they might do.
Yeah, we understand that a few French citizens have gone over to fight for ISIS. What about the EU's immigration policies? Is that going to come under scrutiny here?
Well, I hope so. And again, being American, obviously I have a biased position, but I think it's much better when you have an immigration system that's open to everybody and you don't discriminate against a particular group. I mean, the one issue, for example, why isn't Turkey in the EU? You may remember years ago you had a Dutch politician said, well, we can't have country with 50 million Muslims come into Europe. So hopefully, I think that they can move beyond this, and if there's a good get to come out of this horrible thing, that might be a step in the right direction.
We've also seen a real rise of right-wing sort of racist rhetoric throughout Europe, anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim. Is that a perceived problem that's getting worse, or is it actually getting worse?
Well, unfortunately, I think it's getting worse because given the economic problems that Europe is having, they're not, they haven't recovered as much from the Great Recession of about 6 years ago as the United States has. Yeah, and you do have, and that is disturbing. It's not just in France. You have that in several countries. And I think these young men may have felt that if they did this horrible thing, it would provoke this reaction on the part of these right-wingers that some, people in these countries would embrace, and that would be the worst outcome. Fortunately, I think you've seen just the opposite. In my view, this really is a turning point, because this attack was condemned by Saudi Arabia, by Iran, Muslim countries and Muslim clerics all over the world, to the extent I haven't seen, when there have been other attacks, for example, the Boston Marathon bombing here in the United States.
Yeah, the reaction around the world has been pretty uniform. Larry Korb, Senior Fellow with the Center for American Progress. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.